not poking the bear this morning. Big topic. And something that we had a meeting in our office about with our head property managers, and what the industry does, which probably isn't necessarily the right thing to do. What we do as an industry is we actually, like when a tenant signs a 6 or 12 month lease, just give me 1 second. I'm going to invite Mr. Burgio in. Our key speaker, Mr. Burgio, is going to get invited. There he is, and sent. Okay, so, oh, he's requested. Here he goes. Let's bring him. Poking the bear. That's what we're talking about this morning. Fixed term leases, are they a thing of the past?
Oh, our first Insta Live, popping the cherry.
We're virgins. We're virgins.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's
this
nice,
is different. You're on top. This is better.
I like it. I like it with me on top. So,
like I pick your nose.
It's done much more professionally with Insta. This live thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but your head's bigger, literally.
I like it. I like it.
Interesting.
I like it. So
what are we talking about?
We're talking about poking the bear.
Yeah,
so
great topic.
Poking the bear, and
So poking the bear is applying to rentals. We're talking about tenants here and that industry market and leases.
Okay. After the 6 to 12 month lease, do you say to your 12-month lease, do you say to your tenant, I want another 12-month lease?
No. Well, that's how it was traditionally done. If I was a property manager or a landlord, after the first term came up, all you would be expecting is you go to the tenant going, are you renewing for another 12 months or you're moving out? There was sort of no in between. And whenever a tenant was given that sort of ultimatum, it sort of just like pokes the bear and they go, oh, actually, I don't really like this place. The sun doesn't come through, the wind has got no aircon, 2 doors down, came up on the market. I may look at something else. So where do you feel the market's going now, Mark, and where it should be in real estate and other industries?
You know what? People don't want fixed-term contracts. They don't want fixed-term contracts. They'll do it if they have to on a home mortgage. They'll do it if they have to on a car. But if they don't have to do it on a mobile phone plan, can you imagine a world, get this, can you imagine a world where there's no leases, no bonds, and you choose the property on your couch and you don't have to go through the property? Can you imagine that? Guess what? It exists. It exists. It's called Airbnb.
Yeah. No, but kind of, yeah.
Right. So our industry,
and I think it's going pretty well as well.
Yeah, it's going really well, and our industry is very archaic with its fixed term leases, the bond procedure, the bond board. It's very, very guerrilla leases. These big 50-page things, 30, 20-page things, whatever they are. It's archaic. So I think what we've seen in our business and what I recommend our landlords to do is after the 12-month lease is up, you don't have to execute a lease with your tenant. Don't poke the bear. You're already poking them. There's sometimes repairs issues. There's sometimes routine inspections every 3 to 6 months. There's sometimes rent going up. That's enough poking of your tenant. Don't poke them anymore.
Yeah, and I think a big thing here where this is coming from as well is a lot of agents are stuck in that going, extend for 12 months and the rent goes up $10. The market, let's face it, the market in Sydney and around the area, the rents are going down. So that's where a lot of we've got to change how we're looking at rentals. We've got to change how we're looking at leases and especially be aware of the market itself. So if you're going to a tenant in that sort of cookie cutter, what you've been doing for 5 years, going sign a new lease or move out, and they jump on realestate.com and see a better property cheaper, you're just going to be costing yourself, costing the landlord a tenant. And it's not in their best interest.
And why do you have to proposition your tenant every 12 months? Why do you have to make them stop and look around at where they're living, how they're living, how much they're spending? Why do you have to proposition like that? Just bloody leave them alone. Don't poke the bear. Leave them alone. And landlords find that hard because they're programmed to, no, I've always had leases on my property. Well, it's changed with the legislation. We were talking before. The legislation's changed where you've got an automatic lease break inside your lease.
Yeah. A lease is almost not worth the paper it's printed on, really. When you know a tenant can, if they're halfway through it, break it for 4 weeks rent, or if they're in the last half 4 weeks rent and 6 weeks rent, which I've been told by a mail that they may be even reducing that. So it's almost like it's literally not worth the paper it's printed on if there's no penalty. And that's not to take into consideration if they plead hardship. I just see more.
When you say it's not worth it's written on, you mean in terms of its tenure, in terms of its fixed term length. That's right. Absolutely.
Correct. It could be a 10-year lease, but they're not locked in for 10 years because they can get out with paying 4 weeks of rent, which is apparently going to be reduced. So, and once you've got the loan, like why would you need it? Genuine question mark. Why would you need a lease besides it may make you feel more secure? Like your bank's not going to recall the loan. Like why do you?
You know what? Your tenant's already vested. They've moved all their bloody furniture in. They're already vested. They've spent a couple grand on furnishing removalists and stuff and
time off work.
And time off work. They're not going to be out of there quick anyway. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You don't go and do that for 6 months or 12 months anyway. You do that for a couple of years.
Unless you've been a bad landlord, let's face it. So if you keep the service good, and the property in good condition, which why shouldn't you? It's probably your biggest asset. So you want to keep it in good condition, maintenance, repairs, and staying in contact. I find a landlord probably only wants to lock their tenant in if they're not doing anything to the property or they feel like they're going to leave because they're unhappy. So it's almost like you're washing your car, so why aren't you maintaining your property, staying in contact with it? And like what we said, that if that's your one, most people it's the biggest asset, and wouldn't you want to stay in contact and the person who's staying in there, keep them happy? And then they won't want to leave, regardless of a lease or no lease.
Big time. So, guys, message out there concluding on what we're saying is
don't poke your tenant.
Don't poke your bear. After the end of the first initial lease, leave them alone. Leave your real estate agent alone.
Yeah.
And make sure your routine inspections are done. Make sure your repairs are done. Focus on other things. Don't focus on that lease tenure because it's not going to save you or your investment property. It doesn't. You know what? How's this, Michael? It doesn't add value.
No, that's the thing. But fixing the exhaust fan in the bathroom, which then creates mold, rather than worrying about if they're on a 6 or a 12-month lease, will make you money, will save you money, and will keep your tenant happy, which adds value. Happy tenant. So
now, with commercial lease, it's completely different. This is another topic and another live that we're going to do.
Oh, yeah, poke that bloody bear.
But certainly, hey Tom, hey Kirk, hey Real Estate Kate. But yeah, guys, hopefully this helps you out there. If you have any friends that need this advice, please share it with them. Please mention this story to them and what we do. We're on at 7:45 every morning. We are qualified to talk about this. We have over 3,000 landlords and tenants that we look after. So it works. We do this a lot, and even we found the change hard. Like we're a little bit old-fashioned in this thinking. So I think the industry really has got to have a look at this fixed-term lease thing that we do, and I really think it's dead. I think the initial, certainly the initial lease is maybe have some legs on it still, but the re-signing and the reletting, it's bullshit.
Yep, you heard it here first. You can get us on our podcast, Facebook.
Yes, we're on our podcast. So, guys, Apple's just accepted us over to do our podcast. So I think we've got 20 of them up now. It's a great series for self-education. If you haven't used podcasts, a bit like me, all you do is write podcast on your phone, and a purple icon will come up from Apple, and you'll find us in there under Novak Properties, under Property Legends, with Novak, and you'll see all our content. So this sort of content's going to be up there is up there as well. But hopefully it's a nice library for self-education for people. Because Michael, you can't find this information out there.
No, it's hard even as agents to get it. It's almost like trial and error and experience. Nevertheless, a landlord or your average punter just wanting to find out about property. So we've had a lot of what is it saying? Like a lot of learn from our mistakes and what we're hearing other agents and landlords, and let us convey it to you with what to do and what not to do.
Yep.
what we've seen, where landlords have come over because someone's poked the tenant, they moved out, and they got $80 less rent. So that's
Yep.
we're just conveying our experiences.
And particularly that climate, guys, the rents are not
Yeah.
going up. The rents are not going up. So you're not being a hero. So if anything, the rents have probably corrected and gone down a little bit. So when you poke them for that lease term, you might get a rude shock and they're asking for $20 less rent if they're signing your lease. It's not worth poking them.
This is true. All right, Mark, let's wrap it up, and good talk.